I'll try to keep this short, but I think it will end up longer than I expect. I live in a house with one roommate, 23F, who is also my best friend. Over the summer, two things happened. One of my family's two dogs became very ill, and my stepfather walked out on our family 2 days before my half-brother's male 16th birthday. Needless to say, things got hectic, and I moved back in with my family for a couple of months to help take care of the dog and try to provide some stability for my brother. The sick dog had to be put to sleep, which was really hard. My mother also had to find a new place since she could not afford the old house on her salary alone. She finds the perfect house, but the landlord did not allow pets. My landlord does, however, and after clearing it with my roommate, I decide to bring Galahad, male 7, home with me. I've always loved Galahad, but since he's moved in, we're pretty inseparable. Nothing makes me smile like this little dog. Roommate adores him, and we often joke that he is our child. My friends love him too, as he is very cute and tends to charm everyone. Everyone except my boyfriend, it seems. Boyfriend was never very keen on Galahad. I guess cordial is the best word, if you can apply that to a relationship with a dog. I always assumed it was because he is a cat person, 2 cats at his place, and it never really bothered me until last weekend. I'm planning on going to a dog Halloween party hosted by the Humane Society. Roommate is going too, and we are dressing up as medieval maidens, and Galahad is going to be a knight. I was excitedly telling boyfriend about this and showing him our costumes when he freaks out. He said Galahad shouldn't be around other dogs or even strange humans because of his behavioral problems. I was surprised because Galahad gets along great with dogs and people and has never shown aggressive behavior. Boyfriend ranted for a while, but here's a condensed version. When Galahad wants attention, like to be in a lap or petted, he will lick your foot or leg, almost always just once. I don't mind this, but I realize not everyone feels the same. When guests are over, I try to distract and redirect him from this, but I let my guests know it is okay to tell him no. When he hears no, he will not repeat the behavior. When someone he does not know well enters the house, Galahad will bark a couple of times. This is not an aggressive bark, more like an attention bark. The only other times that he barks is when he needs to go outside or when he sees me grab the treat bag. Galahad sleeps on my bed on a special blanket. Boyfriend does not like this, so when he is over for the night, I put Galahad in his crate in my room. One night, boyfriend insisted that the crate be placed in another room. I complied, but Galahad hated this and cried for about 30 minutes until I brought him back into my room. He went to sleep normally then and slept quietly the rest of the night. Galahad likes to be watched while he eats. This started when the other dog was put down, and I noticed Galahad lost a lot of weight and ate very little. I had to coax and encourage him to eat, which eventually turned into me sitting at the table next to his bowl with him for about 15 minutes while he eats. Boyfriend lists all these problems, including that I am too obsessed with Galahad, and ending with, he thinks I need to send Galahad back to live with my family. I explain why that is not an option. He said he didn't want to come to my house anymore while Galahad is still here. I asked him if that was an ultimatum, and he told me to take it how I wished. This week our communication has been the bare minimum, and boyfriend still seems very upset with me. Roommate is furious about it. I just want to smooth things over. Should I take Galahad to a dog training class? I don't have the money for a personal dog trainer. I think Galahad is just being a normal dachshund for the most part. Am I in the wrong? I'm so confused. Now for a few important comments. Commenter: these aren't behavior problems. He is still mourning the loss of his friend and your family members. Now, if he was running all over the place, peeing in corners or jumping up on people and biting, then maybe. I think your BF is used to a cat's way of life, minimal amount of attention needed and independent. Dogs are the opposite, need a lot of time and love. If he doesn't want to come over while the dog is there, that's his choice. But it should say a lot about his character when confronted with a problem. It's either his way or no way, no compromises. Does he not like dogs in general? Or just this dog? That's the weird thing. I've seen him be quite friendly with other dogs, talking to them and petting them. Never with my dog, he ignores him mostly. I've noticed that he has a pretty stubborn streak before, but I've never had an issue accommodating him. Maybe he thinks this dog is taking up too much of your time so he gets less? I don't know, really. It seems a bit odd. It's just Galahad he has a problem with. Has he ever said he wouldn't live with a dog? He said once that he didn't think his cats would like Galahad. The only other time we've talked about pets really is when he told me I was posting too many Galahad pics on Instagram. I had just brought him home, so I was excited and kind of overdid it, lol. Now for the 4-day update. I've been asked to update, so here it is. I want to thank everyone who took the time to respond. I got a couple of questions asking if I was minimizing Galahad's behavior, and I think I was. Mainly the barking thing. Galahad only barks a couple of times at people entering the house, but he is loud. It can be startling to people who aren't familiar with him. Also the wanting to be watched while eating. I think I downplayed it because I managed to work it into my routine easily, and I have a lot of guilt over him dropping so much weight. This isn't normal behavior, though, and needs to be corrected. With that in mind, I decided Galahad should be enrolled in a dog training class, and hopefully I could address his other behaviors with a professional. I planned to tell this to boyfriend on Halloween, and hopefully it would all work out. Well, it didn't. I texted boyfriend Halloween morning that I wanted to come to his place and talk before or after the Humane Society Halloween party. He didn't respond, so me, roommate, and Galahad got costumed up and went to the party. It was a blast, and I could tell Galahad enjoyed some canine company. On the way back to the house, boyfriend calls me and asks me to come over so we can talk. I tell him I have to drop off roommate and Galahad first, then I would be right over. He just hangs up. I get to his apartment, and I can tell he's pissed. He asks why I haven't gotten rid of Galahad. I tell him I'm not getting rid of my dog, and about taking him to classes. Boyfriend says that's not good enough. We fight for a while. Neither of us would bend. We ended up breaking up. I get back home, and roommate can tell I've been crying. So we spend the night watching Bill and Ted, drinking wine, and calling ex-boyfriend a medieval dickweed. I'm lucky to have such a great friend. Now for a few comments. Commenter: I predict regret texts from your ex in T-7 days. OP. Thank you all for the support. You might be right. I've always kind of folded to what he wanted before. I didn't have a problem accommodating him. I think he's expecting me to back down, but I have someone else I have to think about now, you know? Respond to his texts with pictures of the dog, the most important guy in my life. I'm pretty sure this is going to be my last update on this subject, unless something crazy happens. Thanks for all the support in my previous posts. So last Saturday, I got a surprise visit from X. I asked roommate to watch Galahad in another room while I talked to X. He actually showed up with a box of dog treats. They were for large dogs, so they were way too big for Galahad, but it was a really sweet gesture. We chit-chat about various things for a couple of minutes. Then X apologizes, says he misses me, and that he wants me back. As much as I've played tough in my posts, I really love this guy, and breaking up has been hard. We started to talk about how we could make it work. He proposed that we could hang out at his apartment, and if he came over to my house, Galahad would be put in a different room than us. I told him I needed time to think, and that I wasn't ready to jump back into official status just yet. His demeanor completely changed. He got quiet for a second, then said, "What the frick?" His voice got angry, not sure if I would say raised, and he went on about how I should just accept his apology, that he was doing everything to make this relationship work, and I was purposely sabotaging it. I could feel tears welling up, and he said, "And now you're going to freaking cry." Roommate walked in the room, living room, kitchen, and went to get something from the fridge. X took this as his cue, I guess, and got up and left without saying anything else to me. So, to pull a Taylor Swift, we are never, ever, ever getting back together. Since then, I've blocked him on all social media except Instagram, where I've been posting pictures of Galahad. It's petty, but it makes me feel better. In other news, I've been training Galahad to eat by himself. Mixed success so far, but slow and steady wins the race. Am I the idiot for kicking my prankster nephew out after he gave my sick daughter a cruel gift? My daughter, female 16, has a lot of medical conditions and has spent a lot of time in hospitals, has had tons of surgeries. A lot of these conditions also cause extreme pain and limit her ability to do a lot of things she wanted to do. My nephew, male 18, is a bit of a prankster and has done some pretty bad things in the past. Her birthday was yesterday, and we had family come over, obviously masks, vaccinated, tests before coming and after, and we were opening gifts, and my nephew had gotten her a customized clock and had a poem on it. The pictures were replacing the numbers on the clock and of her in hospital beds. I don't know how he got a hold of them, as it's mainly my sister/his mom or my husband's family that had them. The poem was about happy memories and how he hopes she makes more of them in the future. My daughter started tearing up at it, and when I read it, I got pissed and told them to leave. My sister told me she wouldn't, as her son was just joking. I said that this goes beyond jokes, and I wouldn't allow it in my house. She said I was overreacting, and my son, male 18, had to step in and lead them out. Now, a lot of the family is mad at me saying I overreacted and am taking things too seriously and need to lighten up a bit. And I am starting to feel that they are right. Am I the idiot? Now for a comment from the nephew. Okay, I'm going to jump on this comment so this doesn't get buried. I'm pretty sure OP is my aunt and I'm the guy who is in jerk. But aunt is leaving something out. My cousin has always been sick, and yeah, she's been in and out of hospitals all her life. Aunt can't really handle it. She keeps talking about how her daughter never had a life and never will until she gets well. Though cousin won't ever be well, her condition is chronic and painful, but it's not going to get much better than it is, and yeah, that sucks. But it feels like her mom can't accept that and keep focusing on her daughter getting better. But I think that cousin's life can't wait for that, because that'll never happen. But if anyone tries to talk about that to aunt, she flips out and starts screaming about how her daughter will be fine and be able to do everything. I just stopped talking about it completely around her, but cousin's been really down about it lately, with the pandemic and lockdowns and all. She's been able to do even less and never sees any of her friends or anything. And she and I have been talking about it. She said she had no life and never had been happy and never would be, because she'd never be fine. I tried to cheer her up and remind her that though a lot of it did suck, there were good times too, and times she laughed, like when I taught her to do card tricks, or that time when we raced up and down the hospital corridor and she kept winning because she was in a wheelchair and a lot faster. We ended up laughing about a lot of stuff, and she shared some of the times she was happy. After she said she felt a lot better about everything. That gave me the idea for the gift, something to remind her that even when she was in hospital and everything sucked, there were good times too. And though she'll be spending a lot of her life in hospital beds, there will always been good times and laughter along with the bad stuff. So I got some pictures off my mom and some other family trying to get pictures of those times she told me about when she was happy. The clock wasn't me being fake deep. A cousin once told me that when the pain was really bad and the doctors wouldn't give her pain meds because it wasn't good for her to get them, she'd stare at the clock on the wall and follow it with her eyes as it ticked the seconds, just keeping her mind on getting through from one second to the next. It wouldn't make it easier for her, but that way she could get through it. So I wanted to give her something she could look at and remember that even if things was really, really bad right now, there'd be times where it wasn't as bad. And okay, the poem was really cringe, but I thought it would make her laugh because it was so bad it was fun. But when she opened it, she just burst into tears and my aunt started yelling at me, and then her and mom started arguing. I just sat there like an idiot because I felt horrible. I know I can be a jerk at times and thoughtless, but I honestly didn't think she'd be upset. I texted cousin later and apologized for making her cry. She wrote back apologizing for crying, saying she did like it, but when she saw it, she just felt overwhelmed. She also asked if I had a copy of the poem because she wanted to hang it on her wall, but her mom had taken it and the clock and wouldn't give them to her. But I'm not sure I can believe her. Cousin will always make sure everyone else around her is okay, when she's the one hurting most. Seeing all the verdicts here about Aunt not being a jerk makes me think I just messed up a lot and should apologize to cousin, though I just meant to remind her that there was good times too. I know I can be a jerk at times and I guess I really messed this up. Adding, this is an account I made just for this. Everything is enough of a mess without the whole internet knowing who I really am. Now for a few relevant comments from the nephew. I'm not really sure what my mom said. I was feeling so awful, then I wasn't really listening. But I used to pull some dumb stunts when I was a kid, and though I haven't in a while now, Mom doesn't really seem to let it go. Maybe that's why. I know some of the stuff I did was pretty crappy, but I can't believe my mom thought I did this with bad intentions or to make fun of my cousin's situation. But yes, she might have. Sometimes I think my mom thinks I'm still 8. I understand that it's hard for her. I don't like seeing my cousin in so much pain either. But it's like, my cousin can't be upset around her or talk about how she feels or how much pain she's in because her mom will get upset or angry or start crying and talking about how hard it is. I did what I'm trying to say. Aunt doesn't know about the clock thing because my cousin knows she can't tell her about it. So I'm not sure I can convince her to give it back to my cousin. There's a lot of stuff Aunt doesn't know about because cousin doesn't want her mom to get upset. I'm glad this is getting a lot of upvotes. People need to know the full story. You sound like a really good cousin. I thought your gift was really thoughtful from the original post and that OP overreacted, and now I am further convinced of that. The only person whose opinion matters in this situation is your cousin's. If she liked it, then you are not a jerk. And just for the record, your aunt sounds like a massive jerk. When asked if this started when the swinging ended, OP said, I can sort of understand my aunt getting mad. I did make cousin cry. I'm not really sure if I trust when cousin says she's not upset. She has this thing where she'll push her own feelings aside if she thinks they'll upset other people. She has to do it all the time with her mom. I told her I don't want her to do that with me, and I think she's stopped. Now for a few comments. Another commenter said, you sound like a really good cousin. I thought your gift was really thoughtful from the original post, and that OP overreacted, and now I am further convinced of that. Then OP replied, I can sort of understand my aunt getting mad. I did make cousin cry. I'm not really sure if I trust when cousin says she's not upset. She has this thing where she'll push her own feelings aside if she thinks they'll upset other people. She has to do it all the time with her mom. I told her I don't want her to do that with me, and I think she's stopped, but Ida cake. Am I the idiot for banning my ex's family from my kids' birthday parties after their nephew caused $3,000 in damages? I have 2 children with my ex-husband. My kids' birthdays are literally one day apart. For birthdays, I always have done one party with 2 cakes, 2 different themes to make it more individualized for each child. Rewind to last year, it's birthday time. I invite friends from school, my family, my ex's family, work friends of mine, etc. Important context. I invite my ex-sister-in-law, Jane, fake name, and her son, Parker, also fake name. I have never met them in person, as she lived multiple states away until she recently moved closer. It was an at-home birthday with rented inflatables. Everyone shows, and it started off great, until it wasn't. Parker started misbehaving. I'm not talking misbehaving as a normal 5-year-old might. He was screaming, having tantrums, not playing nicely with any of the other kids, not sharing toys/games I had put out, and hit several other kids in attendance. He even shoved a toddler down because he wanted to go first on the inflatable slide. It was so bad, just about everyone except family started leaving before we could even cut the cake. At this point, I was at my limit and kicked both Jane and Parker out. He had an immense fit, ended up grabbing a knife I had on the table for the cakes and stabbed one of the inflatables, putting a massive gash in it. Jane did not offer to pay for the damages, nor did she try to apologize. It was just, oh, kids act that way. You're being ridiculous. My ex nor his family said anything to her and just said they didn't want to be involved. I ended up paying $3,000 in damages to the inflatable company. This year I decided to throw 2 parties. One, as I usually did, and the other for my ex and his family. The first party was a week before the one we originally have. I did the usual inflatables, games, photo booths, etc. Neither my ex nor any of his family was invited, so it was fair and I wasn't excluding just Jane and Parker. Everything was great, and everyone had a wonderful time. The next week, we do the second party. My family and my ex's family are there. I had everything else as the other party at this one, excluding inflatables, as I was not risking paying another few thousand if Parker's behavior had not changed within the last year. Everything goes okay. We did have some outbursts from Parker, but no one was injured this go-around, so it went a lot more smoothly. It is now a couple of weeks later, and I started getting blew up with text messages from my ex, his family, saying how awful I am for throwing 2 parties and acting as if they were too stupid to find out. I ignored it at first, but the messages continued, so I eventually started a group chat and just explained to each of them that I did what I did due to everything that happened last year. I'm still getting messages saying I'm being an AH, so am I really TA? Verdict: not. The jerk. Now for a few important comments. Salted fish. How could you be a jerk here? Most people would have simply told Jane and Parker to kick rocks and never come back. The fact you threw 2 separate parties means you're a freaking saint. NTA. I wouldn't let Jane or Parker step foot in my house until she paid me back for the damages her kid caused. Tell Jane the reason you threw 2 parties is specifically because of her poorly trained kid, and you had to insulate yourself from the potential damages. Trick Delivery 4609. NTA for this, but why TA to yourself? 1. Why would you still invite the stabber and his mom to anything that you host? 2. You no longer have to have joint parties. If the ex wants to throw a party and invite his family, he can. I would reply back, thanks for your input. You are all no longer invited to parties at my house in the future. Now for the next day update. Update. Thank you all. To answer some questions, because I was at my original character limit, I did request Jane pay the damage invoice from the inflatable company. She denied, of course. When it came down to it, I signed the rental contract, accepting responsibility for any damages done, so they would not pursue her for it. I did consider the possibility of small claims. I didn't follow through, because I was trying to keep the peace between myself and ex-husband for the benefit of the kids. It's been a long divorce journey, and I was honestly just so tired of arguing. I did the 2 parties, again for what I thought was the benefit of the kids. They love their dad and his family. So I was trying to arrange a way in which they'd be able to celebrate with everyone, even if it meant me being out of pocket for a double birthday, double cakes, etc. If I excluded Jane and Parker, I feel none of his other family would have shown. I just didn't want that heartbreak for them. They are 5 and 6. While they knew what Parker did, they didn't know the ramifications it caused me, being out $3,000. I try to keep any adult things shielded from them, as I want them to form their own opinions regarding their father and his family on their own, with no influences of my experiences with them. I took your advice and wrote back to the group chat. I let them know that moving forward, my ex, they can throw a birthday for the kids if they wish, but they'd no longer be invited to any event I had. We could coordinate dates so we ensure they don't fall on the same day, but that is the extent I will be going from this point forward. I guess you guys gave me some courage because I told them they can kiss my butt. I left the chat and blocked them all except my ex-husband due to having to have contact to co-parent. Thank you all. I was second-guessing myself and even questioning my sanity at this point.